Welcome to the CV Brothers podcast. Today we are returning to the world of the pulphero cinematic universe that we are creating. As we have discussed before, Phase 1 was all about introducing our heroes, setting up the world, and bringing them all together. Now that the champions of justice have been formed, and New York / the country has been saved, the heroes return to their homes and continue their own stories. I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, leave a comment. If you don't, leave a comment. Let's continue the story of the Pulp Hero Cinematic Universe, Phase 2. The Mask of Zorro, 1939. Marcus Fairbanks, a descendant of Alejandro Marietta, apologize to all of my listeners who know how to speak Spanish better than I do. Marcus lived in Los Angeles and worked as a police officer. He was born and raised in California and wanted to be a police officer his whole life. In his younger years, he honed his skills of deduction, charisma, and understanding of people. After becoming a police officer, he worked for many years to become a detective. When he was finally promoted to be a detective, he felt like he was on top of the world. During his first few months, he quickly learned that his captain, Harrison Love, and his fellow detectives were all corrupt cops working for the mob and other organizations. Marcus found out the mob was working with landowners to remove poor families and farmers from specific areas to build new housing and develop businesses. They were preying off the police to keep murderers and other corruption under wraps so they could continue their business practices and control. Marcus wanted to do the right thing, but was not sure how to do it. He decided he would try to gather as much evidence as he could while he was at work. However, he quickly realized he would need to gather evidence in other ways, knowing that he could not be everywhere at once. He was inspired one night while reading about the story of the Rocketeer. He thought back to the old legend of Zorro, the hero of the people. He traveled to his family home and found the old costume. He dusted it off and donned the mask of Zorro to fight the corruption he knew was in the police department. Marcus spent his nights and days off gathering information and beginning to help the people of Los Angeles, in effect becoming the hero himself. He did not know what he was doing, but little by little, he began to bring hope back to the people and revitalize the legend of Zorro. A local Catholic mission often helped protect Zorro and allow him a safe place to hide his evidence and to stay clear of unwanted parties. Captain Love eventually realized Marcus was trying to rat him out and got him fired. Marcus then became Zorro full-time. He eventually gathered a large amount of information on their plans and corruption and turned it over to the Internal Affairs Department within the police department, allowing them to be removed from the police department and to clean up the name of the police in Los Angeles. Marcus was excited by creating a new incarnation of Zorro and bringing the wicked to justice. He started his own PI business while secretly fighting crime as Zorro. He had restored hope to the people, and many knew that if they went to Marcus, the information would get back to those who needed it, and they would be protected. Post-credit scene. One night in his office, Marcus was greeted by the Rocketeer and Indiana Jones. They said they wanted to talk to him about his extracurricular work. The three men spoke about the need for someone like him and the team that they had built to fight for the people. Dicktracy 2, Wanted, 1939. After their adventure in New York City and the creation of the Champions of Justice, Dick Tracy and Dick Tracy Jr., or just simply Jr., returned to Chicago with the Shadow. Cranston had grown older in the last decade and realized he needed to train a successor to fight crimes so that he could retire someday. After their interactions in New York City, Cranston knew Tracy and Junior were the right people to learn of their psychic powers. Despite their background and rough experiences, he knew they had the right heart to fight evil and not to use the power for themselves. As they trained, Cranston noticed Dicktracy Jr. picked up the training skills especially fast. Chicago itself had become rougher in their absence. The different crime families and gangsters of all sizes were vying for power after the void created by Big Boy Capri's death in the previous film. The police were doing their best, but the more criminals came out, the more the police realized they were outnumbered. The gangsters' shoulders, Laffy, Influence, the Mole, and Pruneface, the few who were left over from Capri's alliance, led their group into war to take over the streets. They sent the police and the people into chaos. Tracy figured out Influence was using the gang war to distract the people so they could rob banks and fund their new family. The war was not serving as a true war, but it was being used as a misdirection for the robberies, but in a way also to weed out weaker criminals to make a new, stronger crime family. Tracy and Junior became the most wanted targets for all criminal organizations in Chicago because of how they had destroyed Caprice's organization. Tracy, Junior, Tess, and Cranston had to go on the run to avoid being killed. Tracy and Junior had to lean on their new powers to protect the innocent lives in the town and also protect themselves. Like the Shadow, they learned how to alter others' perceptions and hide in the shadows, to move objects with their minds, whether that be a simple piece of paper, a bullet, or themselves. Tracy and Junior often used their powers to incapacitate criminals rather than kill them, causing those bullets to hit just the right place. They moved from safe house to safe house while trying to uncover Pruneface and Influence's plan. With their new powers, Tracy and Junior managed to stop Shoulder, Laffy, the Mole, Pruneface, and the others from the group. They brought them to justice and turned them over to the police to serve their time. Tracy and Tess finally got married after having been engaged at the end of the last film, and Junior continued his training under Cranston even harder than he had before. Because of their efforts, peace was restored to the city and the people began again to feel safe. Post-credit scene. Big Boss, the godfather of Chicago, was approached by a dark figure asking if he would like some extra power in restoring his criminal empire in Chicago. The figure pointed out how Tracy had caused so much trouble and offered a solution to get back at him. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, 1934. In 1934, the American archaeologist Indiana Jones survived a murder attempt by Shanghai criminal boss Lao She. Indiana fled from the city with a young orphan, Short Round, and a nightclub singer, Whitney Scott. However, they were unaware that the plane they had gotten onto was actually owned by Lao She. The plane's pilots dumped the fuel and parachuted away while Indy, Wendy, and Short Round were asleep. They managed to escape the plane crash. However, the trio made their way, after surviving the crash, down the slopes of the Himalayan mountains and fell into a river and eventually arrived at the Indian village of Mayapur. In a flashback, after having a fallout with Professor Ravenwood, Indy left Nepal and became an adventurer for hire. He honed his deduction skills, his knowledge of the ancient world in these adventures. While in Hong Kong, he met Short Round and took the kid in as a partner to keep him off the streets. He saw a kindred spirit and wanted to help protect him. At the village in Mayapur, the people pled for Indy's aid in retrieving the sacred lingam stones stolen from their village, as well as the village children who had been stolen by an evil force at the nearby Pankot Palace. Indy agreed to help and hypothesized that the stones were one of the 5 Shankara stones given by the Hindu gods to help humanity fight evil. They traveled to the palace, were warmly welcomed, and allowed to stay the night as guests of the young Maharaja. That night, Indy was attacked by an assassin, but managed to kill the assassin. He discovered a series of underground tunnels underneath the palace and explored them with Whitney and Short Round. They discovered the Tongi cult conducting human sacrifice. The cult, which possessed 3 of the Sankara stones, was revealed to have been the cause of the abduction of the children of Maripur, using them to find the remaining stones while digging under the mountain. When they attempted to retrieve the stones, Indy was captured alongside Wendy and Short Round. The Thungi high priest, Mala Ram, forced Indy to drink a potion that placed him in a trance-like state. He then made Indy prepare Wendy for sacrifice. Short Round was put to work in the tunnels, but he escaped and interrupted the sacrifice, freeing Indy from the trance. Indy and Short Round then rescued Wendy. The trio defeated the Thungi, collected the Sankara stones, freed the children, and escaped an attempt by Malaram to drown them. As they crossed a rope bridge above a river, Malaram ambushed them again, leading Indy to cut the bridge and break it in two, allowing a lot of the cultists to fall into the crocodile-infested water below. Indy, Wendy, Short Round, and Malaram struggled to climb up the broken bridge. Indy then invoked the name of Shiva, causing the stones to burn through his satchel. Malaram tried to grab one and fell into the river. He was likewise then devoured by the crocodiles. The British Indian Army soldiers arrived and defeated the remaining cultists, and Wendy, Indy, and Short Round returned to Mayapur and handed over the last remaining stones to the village. Post-credit scene. Indy decided that his adventuring life was not for him and talked to an antiquities dealer named Marcus Brody. Brody noted that he could make some connections for Indiana with a college that would allow him to put his knowledge to use, but also keep him safe back in America.